I know that there are a lot of people out there who are considering a career in IT. I have about 13 years of experience in information technology, and I wanted to share what the pros and the cons, or the positives and the negatives are of having a career in information technology. Now, I worked in information technology for a medium-sized company, which typically means that I was working a fair number of roles and I was doing a variety of different things. And over the years, I was a help desk technician, a systems engineer, a security analyst, project manager, and a department manager. And this is one of the great things about information technology. There should be something that fits everybody's personality type. So I do want to state one thing, which is that I worked for a small to medium-sized company, and typically companies of this size, the IT people take on a large variety of roles. However, bigger companies, people tend to not have as many roles. In fact, people tend to get a lot more siloed. So when I'm making these references, I'm really talking more about small to medium-sized companies. So let's move on, and I'll tell you about the positives of working in IT. Number one is pay, and this is what most people are looking for. This is why a lot of people get into IT to begin with. The pay on average throughout the United States hovers at around $100,000 a year, which, as most of you know, is way above the average salary in the United States. Now, of course, depending on your position, the hours that you put in, and the company that you work for, you could get paid a whole lot more than that. Some people get paid up to $250,000 working for companies like Google. Obviously, they tend to put in a lot more hours, but the fact is that they do still make a higher salary. The next positive is job safety, and this is kind of a strange one that most people wouldn't consider, because typically when you hear about jobs in IT, you hear about the tech layoffs. And once again, I think that's typically the larger companies, because for the most part, IT people are considered to be these really key stakeholders in the company, because they're the people who have the skills that no one else has. They're the people who has the knowledge that no one else has. And they're also the people who have the abilities that no one else has. And here's the issue. If I'm a medium-sized company, and I have 5 system engineers and 100 different systems, that means that each person owns 20 different systems. And if one of those people leaves, all of a sudden, those 20 systems don't have an owner. So like, one of the things that I did was I owned server management. And we're talking about the system where if it goes down, then you lose almost all of your systems. Like, you lose a bunch of websites, you lose your internal tools. And let's say that they fire me. All of a sudden, the next day, all the servers go down. They could be losing thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of dollars every single hour that those systems are down. So this means that as long as you are competent and you're not outwardly mean, sometimes even maybe you are outwardly mean, it means that for the most part, most IT people's jobs are safe, because no one wants to get rid of someone who's competent, because they know how much work it's going to be and how much money it's going to cost to train someone new. And frankly, training someone new can take up to an entire year. And the next positive is that these jobs are typically pretty creative and not monotonous. And I know it's kind of a strange thing to say. Information technology sounds really boring. Why would it ever be creative? Well, because for the most part, you're doing something new almost every single day. And some people are doing new things every single moment of every single day. You are designing new systems. You're going through projects to push out new products. You're talking to users to determine exactly what their needs are. You're doing all sorts of stuff that you've never ever done before. There is one other part to this that a lot of people really, really like, and I think this is one of those things that I didn't know that I liked, but it is troubleshooting. Troubleshooting issues is oftentimes really, really fun. Depending on the stakes. If 1,000 people are waiting on a system to come back up, then that's not fun. But if there's just something down that people don't care that much about, or if it's a redundant system and you have time to really put into it, man, troubleshooting is actually one of those things that I think brings people a lot of fulfillment in their jobs. And another positive is remote work. Most IT positions outside of like help desk stuff, outside of desktop support where you're dealing with a lot of physical equipment, most jobs can be done remotely. And a lot of companies, especially the companies who are really trying hard to retain talent, they offer opportunities to work remotely. Sometimes a majority of the time, sometimes all the time. But typically, almost all the companies will offer you the ability to work remote for, things like snowstorms, or if you really can't get any childcare, if you need to pick up your kid at school, or, if you're feeling a bit sick and you don't want to go in and get everyone else sick. Next up is role importance. Many IT people are the be-all, end-all of their systems or their role. They know things and can do things that no one else can do. And basically, this puts people in kind of this de facto position of power. It allows them some decision-making skills and also the ability to design new things that'll be used by many, many people, and that'll create tons of value. You don't just feel like a cog in the machine. You feel like you're actually doing something that matters. And I think that this is one of those things that really gives people meaning and purpose and fulfillment in their jobs. Now, moving on to the negatives. With these really important job roles also comes high expectations. Now, there are other examples for this. This is definitely one of the most emotional ones. But sometimes you are, in fact, the only one who can fix certain things, and you're the only one who has the knowledge, the skills, and the abilities to do so. And things will break, and there will be hundreds, if not thousands, of people who can't work, maybe at all, but at least in that system. And they will all be waiting on you, breathing down your neck. And we're talking from the lowest level person to the CEO, waiting for you to fix stuff. And that can be very, very stressful. And of course, this isn't something that you are necessarily trained to do. This is something where you fly by the seat of your pants and you just go on the things that you knew, but you don't know exactly how to fix it. So, you're looking at logs, you're searching for things online to see if anyone else had the same issue, and just using your intuition and looking at certain things that are kind of crazy, like whether or not the clock is the right time. And, these are all things that you kind of learn over time. But the fact remains that as you're doing them, there is an immense amount of pressure on you to get them fixed. And this doesn't necessarily pertain to other roles. Like when I was a manager, I wasn't typically the one who was fixing these things. When I was a project manager, I wasn't really the one fixing these things. But if you're a system administrator or a system engineer, or sometimes even the help desk guy or a developer, then this can fall on you. Next up is kind of similar for the negative parts. It is risk. And for the help desk guy, this isn't that big of a deal, but for most people above, including the managers and the project managers, things go wrong all the time. Sometimes because someone made a mistake, sometimes because there was just a design flaw, and someone said the wrong thing in a meeting. And other times, sometimes things just straight up don't work the way that they should. In fact, one of the most routine things that are done is patching. And almost every patch cycle, something just goes wrong. Sometimes a server doesn't come back up after it was rebooted. And it was rebooted at 2 a.m. And then people come in at 6 a.m. and they're like, why isn't this system up and running? And it is what it is. When you're dealing with these systems that have thousands of users logging on to them, sometimes things go wrong, and there are certain periods of time where things go down, and you just kind of accept it and deal with it. But you do need to learn how to deal with that risk internally. And the third thing is the one I think that actually gets me the most, and it is sitting all day long. Our bodies and our brains really like it when we move around, but for the most part, other than walking to different meetings outside of the help desk role, project managers, engineers, developers, we spend the majority of our time just sitting down in front of our computer screen. And I'm not gonna lie, most days I leave either feeling kind of down or I leave with some sort of a headache because I've just been staring at my screen for too long. Now, something that's kind of in the middle is learning. And I think that most people actually do enjoy learning. They like knowing new things, expanding their skill sets, and I think that's most people. However, there is also this other part of learning, which is that there is still that pressure to constantly be learning. And I do want to state this. Typically, the learning isn't like classroom style learning. It's not you sitting there for 6 hours a day for 3 months straight, just absorbing information. Instead, it's a lot more organic. It's like, maybe if you're a security analyst, you wake up every day and you read articles for 30 minutes. But typically what it is like, I'm a systems engineer, I'm trying to figure out how to do this migration, and I'm looking up online resources, or I'm talking to consultants and they're giving me and they're giving me their own resources to tell me exactly how to do something. But some people, they want to go to work and they just want to do the same thing every single day, and that's fine. But if you are that type of person, then frankly, IT might not be for you, because every day is going to be a little bit of learning and troubleshooting. And now for some variable things. One of the things that I had a tough time with as an engineer was not talking a lot. And I'm not a super social person, but just sitting down all day for 8 hours a day or more and not talking to people outside of like the 1 or 2 meetings that I had per day was really, really rough. For me, I like to break up the day and actually, talk to people and get their feedback and have people to bounce ideas off of. That really does get me going. And I know that some people are exactly the opposite. Some people don't want to talk to anyone. And, that's all well and good. And that's the reason why I put this down as variable. However, other positions that I had, like as a manager or a project manager or the help desk technician, I was always talking to people. My meeting, when I was a project manager or a manager, I had meetings for probably 6 out of the 8 hours a day. Contrast to that, when I was a systems engineer, I'd probably have between 0 and 3 meetings. And oftentimes, even with those meetings, I was just there to give my input for like 1 or 2 minutes. I was there kind of as a safety net to make sure that no one screwed anything up. Next up in my kind of variable, could be a pro, could be a cons list, are hours. And I put it in the variable list because it's a little bit strange. Some companies won't work you more than 40 hours a week because they want to keep you, unless of course you're willing to work more than 40 hours a week and you want to do it. Other companies, especially because IT is really considered more of an expense than anything else. We are support. We're not directly bringing in money. We're not directly talking to the customers. Because of that, a lot of companies will try to run their IT ragged. These are the companies, frankly, that I just stay away from. Now, one of the negatives about some of these positions in terms of hours is also that, like, if you're a system engineer or a system administrator, sometimes as a help desk guy, there's typically some kind of on-call structure because systems do go down in the middle of the night, and that is just one of those things that you accept. If your system breaks, you're going to be there to fix it. That's just being a responsible IT person. It kind of comes with the job. It's like being a firefighter or a police officer, and I'm not saying that, it's the same level of importance in saving people. But when a system goes down, depending on the company, it could literally mean hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars lost. So someone does need to get up and take care of that system. So I just want to reiterate that, IT should really have a role for almost everyone and for almost every single personality type. I really hope that you all found value in this video. Best of luck to you all and have a good one.